G'day folks, Steve from Vintage Restorations Australia here. In today's episode I start working on the firewall or the bulkhead. John and I have a discussion about the best way to connect the electric motor to the drive chain. Then John starts breaking down the gearbox and doing an assessment of it. And we also load up the old petrol motor that came out of the car to move it on to its new owner.
Steve, Essex reckoned this was the panel that he replaced on his as well.
Alright.
He bought one from Paddocks.
So it wouldn't be hard to fold that up though. You know, that's an easy
no, it's
one,
nice
2, 3, 4 fold.
You double up here, you'll notice there's a double thickness of steel just to give more support. But that's easy.
There's that plate goes over the top of it though that we took off.
Yep.
On the inside though.
Yeah.
Got a few little bits embedded. That's the byproduct of grinding without gloves on. Safety seventh. There we go, the wind hasn't abated today, but we've got a bit of grinding done. That's starting to look clean. Sorry about that wind. It's starting to come together. Now we've just got to get cutting. Cut this section out and the other footwell there. Weld in some new stuff, finish cleaning it up, and a couple of little spots like here, and obviously down here is quite roached out, so we're going to cut that out and repair it. It'll come up like a new one, well, slightly used one. Okay, 50-year-old one that's had a hard life.
There are two types of transfer case apparently, and I'm guessing one of them might be the military grade transfer case where you get a bigger reduction factor, which means our top speed would be limited. I'm guessing this is the standard one, but we'll have a look when we get inside as to whether the gears are straight cut or helical, and that'll tell us.
Well, the more I think about it, the more I think we should just go onto the back of the transfer case, do away with all the gearbox. And
yep, well that gearbox is pretty worn, so we need to pull the transfer case apart and check it. And the rule of thumb on the internet for a DC series bound motor, like a forklift motor, tops out at 5,000 RPM. So I ran the figures at 4,000 RPM, driving the transfer case, gear reduction to the axle, gear reduction to the wheels.
For that size wheel?
That size tall wheel. So 4,000 RPM. At top speed, 108 kilometres an hour, which is heaps for an old Land Rover. And
too
at low
fast.
range, 58 kilometres an hour.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's an acceptable sort of range of, and given the torque curve for a DC motor, that'd work well.
Sounds plausible.
So I took the transfer case and gearbox apart. It had already been slightly stripped, which was great. Current plan is to throw away, or don't use the bell housing and clutch, don't use the gearbox, although we will need these components, and just go with the transfer case and plug the electric motor into the transfer case. Gives you a high-low range and four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, and in this particular gearbox case, a PTO. Let's see, no particular issues other than the fact that it's really grimy to take it all apart. Splitting the gearbox from the transfer case, there's 5 studs, 1 bolt, and 6 fasteners. It'd really be nice if they redesigned this and had all of the fasteners accessible from outside, but what has to happen is you have to get into the transfer case, open it up, pull out some gears, get access into the transfer case with a socket and undo a bunch of nuts on the inside. Anyway, it does eventually come apart. I was a bit bamboozled by that for a while. The gearbox looks terrible because it's got the usual wear and tear on the gears. The transfer case is really good. This is to be expected. The transfer case doesn't get shifted very much, so the gears are mostly meshed permanently in low range or high range. You rarely change, so not as much wear and tear. There's a few bearings in here, they all were good. I must say that one of the things I did as I took the transfer case apart was to get the shaft and push-pull on it to see how much free play there is, and also wobble it around and spin it to see what it feels like and what it sounds like. And the transfer case was all fantastic, so actually it's in good condition, and I think it'll clean up and be good to go really easily. So ahead of us, other than cleaning it all up and getting rid of the cardboard and silicon gasket bits and pieces, this is where the gearbox would normally mount. The other way up, this is the bottom of the transfer case, this is the top. Gearbox would go here, and either we have to fake something up to mount the electric motor in this direction facing into the transfer case and connect it, or we have to go to the PTO output side of the transfer case, which is actually easier from the electric motor point of view because it's a spline shaft with a yoke on it, so you can put a drive shaft with some universal joints on it, which would be really easy. Alignment's not an issue, it's nice and trivial, but we still have to do something on the other side of the transfer case because the gearbox projects some gears and a shaft into here, and they're required. So I'm still in two minds as to what to do. These are the bits of the gearbox that we have to keep. If we use the transfer case mechanism, we might, I don't know, maybe cut the gearbox off or just put it on there mostly empty except for these bits, because we just need them to be there and have a bearing and turn. So they'd be okay. If we put the electric motor where the gearbox was, which would be nice, it fits inside the transmission tunnel quite nicely, we have to fudge up an equivalent to all of this on the end of the gearbox. Now that's not unusual. You can buy adapters, usually a 4-inch or 100mm spacer that goes in here that carries all these components and then adapts it to another gearbox, like a 5-speed and a V8 engine on the front. So somebody's already doing that. Bit of work for us to do that, although could be fun. We might have to cast some aluminium, or we'd have to plate, box it in, weld it, and get it all to fit. But open to all suggestions, and we'll have a look at what our options are and what we can achieve and see what we can do. Otherwise, I can see in my future a whole lot of cleaning to do.
Just got to pick this motor up. It's been donated to another cause, a worthy stinky cause, non-electric cause, but anyway, it's a nice bit of recycling. It's going to go to another car.
Something that's strong enough to take that. Then did you want this one?
I'll stick with the one we got.
Oh, it's missing a bit.
Yeah. There we go, all strapped up, ready to go. Off for the other John to pick up. This is a little tie pin thing that John that came to pick up the motor out of the electric car gave me. It's very cute. That's reverse. The only problem is I don't actually own a tie, but yeah, maybe I'll put that in my hat. That's a good idea. Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. Obviously, we'll continue on with that bulkhead work and the gearbox work over the next episode or two because it's going to take a little while. Just a quick shout out to Stuart Brearley. He signed on as our #1 patron of the channel. We appreciate that, so thank you very much, Stuart. His name will be going on the wall of fame, which is shortly to go up in the workshop. And Stuart also has access to a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff that only Patreons get to see. Check it out down below, and if you're in the position to, we'd appreciate that support. I guess that's it. So we'll see you next week. Take care of yourselves and look after each other. See ya.